Hello, welcome back to the Daily Rundown. Ashley's here, Tom's here, and I'm here. What more could you want? Actually, don't answer that. Next story, it's a women's lib story, really, I suppose. Raymond Moore has resigned as the Paribas Open Tournament director after his comments that women's tennis rides on the coattails of the men's game. I can feel hackles rising already on the other side of the sofa. Moore said ahead of Sunday's Italian Wells women's final that female players should go down on their knees and thank God that Roger Federer and Rafa Nadal were born. Meanwhile, world number one Novak Djokovic claimed that male players should receive more prize money than women because more people come to see them play. So women now, as a result, might boycott this tournament in the future, but what do you think about it? Should women get equal pay despite playing less? Because it's 3 sets for a woman, 5 for a man, Ashley.
Yeah, well, why is that though? I mean, let's go all root cause problem solving here though. If people are saying, well, we're not going to give equal pay for sort of tennis players, you know, men and women, unless because there are different sets played. Okay, well, in which case either guys go down to 3 or women start playing 5 sets.
Could women play 5 sets? And I'm playing devil's advocate here. It's a big strain physically on the body.
Oh, seriously?
It is.
These people are athletes. They train. This is what they do. They play tennis. So to say that they wouldn't be able to go for a bit longer playing tennis when their job is to play tennis.
Quite a bit longer. I mean, a 5-setter for a man is exhausting enough when you see them come off court. Could a woman really want to put herself through that?
Well,
would the play decrease in the final set?
Ask a female tennis player, I suppose. But then just the argument or the suggestion that, oh, well, we're not sure about that because we're not sure if women are physically capable of it is nonsense. Because that, you know, there are female MMA fighters. There's, you know, so the point is the thing is visibility, isn't it? Because he's saying that more people watch the men's game. Yes, because the women's game has been marginalised and buried in the television schedules for longer. People don't pay as much attention to the women's game.
Do you think it was always that way? Because tennis is the only sport I actually followed. And when I was a kid, the big players were the women's game. There was Billie Jean King and Everett, Navratilova and Virginia Williams. I mean, there was endless female players. Now the female game is incredibly boring. They're all very similar. Their names all end in OVA, and their game is quite dull to watch. Whereas the guys have now come full circle, and the men's game now has a lot of different male players who are all quite big draws to watch. Do you think maybe there has to be a way of actually getting? It's a difficult way of putting this, more interest in female players into the game again.
Well, there's always sports fans who are going to be interested in the game, no matter who it is that's playing it. It's interesting you mentioned Billie Jean King because, of course, the female tennis players of that era were, you know, constantly fighting.
They owe it all to her, really, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. That sort of battle to be taken seriously in the first place. And so now to suggest that modern players, you know, aren't as capable. Billie Jean King had to fight for that in a way that Roger Federer never did. He's a damn good tennis player, but he didn't have to fight extra hard because he was a damn good tennis player who was also female and therefore didn't get taken seriously.
So what do you think? And if women players, I can't wait to hear your opinion on this. If women players decide, no, we don't want to go up to more than the best of 3 and the best of 5, technically, should they get the same money?
I think the step towards solving this argument is you say everyone gets paid the same, everyone plays the same. I think that's the only way to move forward with it. I am personally of the opinion that they can go for 5 games. I'm sure that...
Well, most of them are pumped full of hormones now, aren't they? Because, I mean, what's her name? Last week, Sharapova, done for substances.
Right.
That's really turned the female game on its head because she was one of the personality players that was a big draw.
Top earning female athlete, I believe, if not in tennis, then in sport.
Okay.
And from the TV.
Which is interesting because she's never won a lot of major tournaments, but she is the biggest.
Well, it's partly due to all the sponsorship deals that she's got.
Not anymore.
I believe if the report was correct, she's 25th highest overall.
Wow.
But the other 24 above her were all men. You know, of various different, you know, sports, but they were all men. But yeah, I think in order to solve this, you do need to you do need to have them both doing exactly the same in order so that there is no way of going, oh, but but women do this, but men do this. You just go, right, well, you both do the same. You both do the same. I mean, I don't follow sports. Sports bore me.
A fine athlete like yourself, that's hard to believe.
Actually, I'm with him on this one. This thing, I've learned about this because we're talking about it tonight, but this whole sporting tennis thing, it's a closed book to me because it's people that don't do anything but play sport and then get sponsorship deals and then, appear in adverts for things, faffing about against a green background, usually, and getting paid an astronomical amount of money for it. It's just...
That's sport in general for you though, isn't it?
Well, that's what I'm saying. But, I've just kind of summed it all up there, and so now I don't need to bother with any of it. See? Cynic.
So we're basically, sport's a bad thing, that's what we're saying. Let's just stop it. Enough now.
That I've definitely noticed that I think... I came across this about 6 months ago and I posted it out on Facebook. Where are all the female football managers? Okay. There's not a single pro men's team
They're
in the Premier
probably all
League.
down the shops.
Oh boy.
I just want to see Ashley's reaction to that.
It's an education every
You'll
time.
never get the ironing done if you're busy mucking about the football. Who's going to get the tea on?
I will end you.
See, not just the only cynic on the sofa.
All right. That's not cynical, that's just sexist.
Let's just move on then.
Okay.
Speaking of sex, sexting among young people is skyrocketing, but the government is refusing to protect the smartphone generation, according to Labour. Labour wants to make personal, social, health and economic PSHE classes, which cover sex education, statutory. The current government has pledged to keep the subject status under review. Do we think that laws are ever going to keep up with technology? Are you a sextologist? Is that the word?
Sexting enthusiast?
Yes.
I think that anyone who has the access to and the interest in sex has the potential, if not is already actively doing it, even if it's on a very low level. Mm-hmm. I think that if I was their age or when I was their age, the technology was available to me, then I would certainly be doing it if anyone would be willing to not be sick.
Okay. Well, if you're going to show them your pimply bottom, I don't think it's going to go far, is it, really?
It's true. Don't, keep that one back.
That's not a great opening.
And that's only gotten better. So it was worse back then. It was
Good
worse.
Lord.
But I think it's going to happen. It's just something that when you're at that age, you're particularly interested in sex. You've got these smartphone devices that are...
Well, that goes back to what we talked about before. If you're under 16 and you're feeling a bit sort of, horny or whatever, and you take a photograph, who knows, the FBI could have it on their screensaver before you know what's going on.
Yes, this is true. I mean, you're right, there's no way to stop that from the young from exploiting technology, because usually they're better at using it than the people that actually came up with it.
Good Lord, yes.
Yeah, and it's astonishing to see. So I don't
think... The mood would go if I ever tried it.
Yeah, exactly. So
rather would pass.
Rather than using these sort of security laws to sort of say, you shouldn't sext because they'll be watching your phones type thing. Rather than that, I think Labour have the right of it, really. And I've come on the show and various other things talking about SRE and sexual relationship education before, because that is definitely something that's needed. Because you're not going to stop people from experimenting with it. You're not going to stop teenagers from being interested in sex, because we need them to be, otherwise our species would die. So that's kind of how it works. The species needs to propagate itself, so we get urges, we get impulses, and so you start to check out what those mean. So if they're given the guidance to sort of say, right, well, actually, here's a thing that could happen, and think about it maturely, and be empathic and sort of emotional with each other, rather than just saying, here's your sex education, here's how to put on a condom, but be careful, because if the condom breaks, you will get a disease and die, which was basically my sex education when I was at high school. That was it.
Mine was horrific.
Yeah.
Mine was really bad.
Yeah, so I mean, they give you a plastic thing to put a condom on, but there's no talk about relationships. When I was at school, there was a bit of legislation still kicking around, Section 28, which prevented any mention whatsoever of any LGBT topics in anything other than a don't talk about these things kind of a way. So no one was addressing the subject at all.
It still seems to be, even now, a taboo subject. People don't talk about it. I mean, do parents still give their kids the talk? I have no idea.
The facts of life while walking around the garden on a Sunday afternoon, perhaps. That talk. Yeah, they're very.
But we are still very, people can text things. God knows what level of things they can text, but they won't say things face to face to one another. It's very strange. It's a bizarre situation that we're in, that we don't communicate, and that's my worry about social media in general.
I suppose.
It makes it go more underground. Some of these, like if you're saying a 12-year-old kid or 13-year-old kid is sexting, what do they know? What are they
Far more than
possibly-
I did.
Yeah, well, I can remember what you were saying about school. When I was at school, which was admittedly in the dark ages, it was part of religious education. And I remember we knew it was the day we were going to get the talk. And our teacher at the time said, now you find that girls are far more mature for their age than boys, and it can get a little embarrassing, so I'm not going to bother. And he never ever did.
Right.
To this day, I have no idea where anything goes.
Right.
But it's just, I can't imagine that is an isolated incident. It's still probably, what you're saying I think is so true about sex education.
Yeah.
It's the definition of the word, you know.
Yeah, and that's what Labour are pushing for. And well, actually, it's not just Labour that are doing it. There are a lot of agencies and organisations saying we need this in schools, because that's how you don't sort of tackle it by going for the technology and banning people from using it and having a big moral debate about sexting, because it is just going to happen. So what you need is to make sure that it's being done maturely and, if such a thing is possible, safely. You know?
Yeah.
Rather than someone, perhaps a younger person, a young teenager, being exploited by an older teenager. But, and that's how it starts.
Which is the danger again. It's the grooming and all of those things.
So by having proper sex and emotional, relationship education, that it's going to give, hopefully, the teenagers the tools they need to spot that and be assertive enough to say, no, that's abusive behaviour or whatever. That's what's needed, and it's not even a new law. It's not going to cost anything beyond sort of, forcing all the faith schools to do it, perhaps. But, so that's what's needed, and that's kind of what the story's about, and I'm totally on board with that being a thing.
5 seconds left. Have either of you ever sent a sext?
Yes, unfortunately to the wrong person as well.
I think we may have to come back to that story. In the meantime, it's time to go for a break. These two will be back in a little while, but shortly we'll have music from Elevant, so I'll see you in a couple of minutes.